Shadows in formation. The morning sun cast harsh shadows across the training compound as Zara Mansouri struggled to keep pace with her unit. Sweat dripped from her brow as she stumbled through the obstacle course for the third time that week, her boots catching on the rope climb that seemed to mock her efforts. Behind her, she could hear the snickers of her fellow recruits, particularly Omar Farid, whose wealthy family had secured him a place in this elite program. "Mansouri, you're holding up the entire formation," barked Sergeant Khalil, his weathered face twisted in familiar disapproval. "Perhaps your father's reputation was greatly exaggerated." The words cut deeper than any physical wound. Colonel Ahmed Mansouri had died a hero's death defending their homeland 5 years ago, and Zara had spent every day since trying to honor his memory. Yet here she stood, covered in mud and shame, seemingly proving that heroism wasn't hereditary. As the other recruits moved on to weapons training, Zara remained behind to complete the course properly. She had learned not to make excuses or plead for understanding. The military didn't care about her reasons, only results. But something kept her going, a memory from 3 years ago that burned bright in her darkest moments. During an international training exercise, she had met a commander whose quiet confidence had left an impression that time couldn't erase. Commander Rashid Ulzara hadn't looked at her with pity or dismissal. Instead, he had seen something others missed, something she was still trying to discover within herself. "You move like someone carrying the weight of expectations," he had told her during a brief conversation between exercises. "But strength isn't about meeting others' standards. It's about exceeding your own." Those words echoed now as Zara finally conquered the rope climb, her arms burning with effort. She dropped to the ground, gasping for air, and noticed a familiar figure watching from the observation deck. Commander Rashid had arrived at their base 3 days ago for the final evaluation period, and his presence both inspired and terrified her. That evening, while her bunkmates celebrated another day of successful training, Zara returned to the course under cover of darkness. She moved through each obstacle methodically, not for speed but for precision. Every grip had to be perfect, every step calculated. Failure in training meant embarrassment, failure in combat meant death. "You know the course is closed after sunset," a calm voice emerged from the shadows. Zara spun around to find Commander Rashid approaching, his hands clasped behind his back. Even in the dim moonlight, his bearing commanded respect. "Sir, I was just improving," he finished, moving closer. "I've been watching you, Zara. Not just tonight, but since I arrived." The use of her first name sent a flutter through her chest. In 3 years, she had wondered if their brief connection had meant anything to him. Now, standing in the moonlight where no one could witness their conversation, she sensed that it had. "They think I don't belong here," she admitted quietly. "They're wrong," he replied without hesitation. "But proving them wrong isn't your responsibility. Proving yourself right is." Echoes of yesterday 3 years earlier, the joint training facility buzzed with tension as military units from 6 nations gathered for the largest cooperative exercise in decades. Lieutenant Zara Mansouri had been selected as one of only 2 representatives from her country's emerging tactical division, an honor that felt more like a burden as she watched seasoned soldiers from around the world demonstrate their expertise. The crisis simulation began at dawn, a hostage rescue scenario requiring precise coordination between international teams. Zara found herself paired with Commander Rashid Ulzara, whose reputation for strategic brilliance preceded him. She had expected coldness, perhaps condescension, but instead encountered something unexpected, genuine curiosity about her perspectives. "Your approach to the building entry is unconventional," he observed as they studied the mock facility. "Tell me your reasoning." Where others might have dismissed her ideas, Rashid listened intently as she explained her analysis of sightlines and civilian safety protocols. When she suggested a modification to the standard breach technique, he didn't lecture her about established procedures. Instead, he tested her logic with pointed questions that sharpened her thinking. The exercise unfolded over 3 intense days. While other international pairs struggled with communication barriers and competing egos, Zara and Rashid developed an almost telepathic understanding. He covered her weaknesses without making her feel inadequate, while she brought fresh insights that complemented his experience. On the second night, they found themselves alone in the strategy room, reviewing footage of the day's scenarios. "You have an unusual gift," Rashid said quietly, his finger tracing potential movement patterns on the tactical map. You see the human element that others miss. Is that a weakness? Zara asked, remembering countless critiques about being too emotional for military service. It's your greatest strength, he replied, meeting her eyes directly. War isn't fought by machines. It's fought by people with fears, hopes, and families waiting at home. Understanding that makes you a better soldier, not a weaker one. As the evening progressed, their conversation shifted from tactics to dreams, from professional goals to personal struggles. Rashid spoke about the pressure of command, the weight of making decisions that affected hundreds of lives. Zara shared her father's legacy and her determination to honor his sacrifice through her own service. Your father would be proud, Rashid said as they finally prepared to leave. Not because you're following his path, but because you're carving your own. The final day of exercises brought unexpected chaos when a terrorist team deviated from the planned scenario, creating genuine danger. In the confusion, Zara found herself separated from her unit and faced with a critical decision: follow protocol and wait for backup, or act on her instincts to prevent civilian casualties. She chose action, implementing a rescue technique that violated standard procedures but saved 3 mock hostages from serious injury when equipment malfunctioned. The international observers were split between criticism of her insubordination and admiration for her quick thinking. Rashid's evaluation settled the debate. Lieutenant Mansouri demonstrated the highest qualities of military leadership: the courage to do what's right rather than what's easy, and the wisdom to prioritize mission success over personal safety. Their final conversation took place at the airport as delegations prepared to return home. This isn't goodbye, Rashid said, his handshake lingering longer than protocol demanded. Soldiers like us always find our way back to each other. Zara had carried those words through 2 years of additional training, through moments of doubt and rejection letters from elite units. When she finally earned her place in the tactical program, she wondered if their paths would cross again. Now, watching him observe her struggles with knowing eyes, she realized he had been tracking her progress all along. Beyond the uniform. The graduation ceremony concluded with Zara receiving the Excellence in Tactical Innovation Award, an honor that shocked everyone except Commander Rashid, who accepted her crisp salute with visible pride. As families celebrated with their newly certified soldiers, Zara found herself alone on the observation deck, watching the sunset paint the training grounds in golden light. Remarkable what perspective can do, Rashid's familiar voice came from behind her as he joined her at the railing. Out of uniform for the first time she had seen, wearing simple civilian clothes, he seemed more approachable, more human. I couldn't have done it without, she began, but he raised a hand gently to stop her. You could have and you would have, he corrected. Perhaps it would have taken longer, perhaps the path would have been more difficult, but your strength was always there. I simply provided an opportunity for others to see it. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the last light fade from the sky. 3 years of wondering, months of secret glances and carefully professional interactions, and now they were finally free to speak as themselves rather than as commander and recruit. That day during the joint exercise, Zara said quietly, when you said soldiers like us always find our way back to each other, did you know? I hoped, Rashid admitted, turning to face her fully. But I also knew that any connection between us had to wait until you had proven yourself on your own terms. Anything else would have diminished your achievements. And now? Now you're Lieutenant Zara Mansouri, tactical specialist with commendations for innovative thinking and exceptional performance under pressure. Now you're my equal in rank and accomplishment. Zara felt a smile tugging at her lips, the first genuine happiness she had experienced in months. So what happens next? We've both received assignments to the Joint Special Operations Task Force, Rashid revealed, producing 2 official orders from his jacket. Coincidentally, of course. How coincidental, she laughed, accepting her new assignment papers. Their fingers touched briefly as the documents changed hands, a small contact that sent warmth radiating through her entire being. There's something else, Rashid continued, his tone becoming more serious. I want you to understand that what I see in you goes far beyond professional competence. Your compassion, your determination to protect others even at personal cost, your refusal to compromise your values despite pressure. These qualities make you not just an exceptional soldier, but an extraordinary woman. Rashid, she said, using his first name for the first time, savoring the intimacy of it. I've spent 3 years wondering if what I felt during that exercise was real or just gratitude for someone who believed in me. And now I know it was both. Gratitude for seeing my potential, but also something deeper. Something worth waiting for. As the base settled into evening quiet around them, Rashid reached for her hand. The path ahead won't be easy. Military relationships face unique challenges, and we'll both have to prove ourselves repeatedly in new environments. Together, Zara said firmly, intertwining their fingers. We face it together. Together, he agreed, bringing her hand to his lips for a gentle kiss that sealed their promise. Below them, the training grounds that had witnessed her struggles and ultimate triumph lay empty, waiting for the next group of recruits to test their limits and discover their strengths. But for Zara, this place would always represent more than military achievement. It would be where she learned that true love isn't about rescue or salvation, but about recognition. Someone seeing not just who you are, but who you're capable of becoming, and having the patience to wait while you become that person yourself. As they walked together toward their new future, Zara carried with her not just the weight of her achievements, but the lightness that comes from being truly known and valued. The weapon he had placed in her hands during that crucial test had been more than trust. It had been a symbol of partnership between two equals who had found their way back to each other exactly when they were both ready to move forward together.